to Ever Living, a new podcast about valuing life here on earth and for eternity. We are your life-loving hosts, Cindy
and Jessica.
Every week on Ever Living, we create a space for sharing the stories and voices of those who work and pray to create a culture that values and protects life in New England and beyond. Welcome to Ever Living, everybody.
Yeah, what is Jessica. This episode? Hi, Cindy. What is this, episode 5, I think?
Is it 6? I've lost count. I think it's probably 5. I think it's 5. You're right.
Yeah, I don't know. We started the beginning of May, and now it's June. So you're right. I think it may be, I don't know, maybe 5? I don't know. Either 5 or 6, but it's exciting. It's the 5th. 5th episode.
So many. Good. Finishing school as a teacher, and graduation is tonight. So I will be attending and working at graduation tonight, which will be exciting. What's new in your life?
Yes, in my life. Gosh, I like my hat.
Yeah.
What's new with me? It's so just enjoying the nice weather. It's been a lot nicer out this week. I just got back from North and South Carolina this past weekend. Went to visit my grandma. She moved to South Carolina last summer, so I went to visit her and some other family. And I got to actually go to visit my second cousin. My second cousin is currently, so my first cousin just had a baby, and that his daughter, she's in the NICU right now. So,
okay.
Yeah, so I got to go visit her, and that was really nice. And she's doing better than she was doing. She was born at 29 weeks. Just a few complications, but it seems like she's going to be okay, and she's doing well. So.
Great. Well, praise God for her growing life.
Yes, exactly.
Growing up. Okay. Well, speaking about the NICU and babies, today's special guest is the executive director of Real Options, pregnancy centers in Nashua and Manchester, New Hampshire. Her name is Lindsay Hyvanen, and we are so happy to have her as our special guest today. Welcome, Lindsay.
Thank you so much for having me. Hi.
Hi. Thanks for the show today.
Yeah, I'm grateful to be here.
Well, Lindsay, please tell us about Real Options and what do you do there?
So I'm the executive director of Real Options, as you said, Manchester, Nashua, and we are actually celebrating our 40th year being a pregnancy center. So we started 40 years ago by a group that came together. They were concerned that, women facing unplanned pregnancies, that they needed somewhere to go where they could really discuss all of their options. Our name has not always been Real Options. We were originally the Crisis Pregnancy Centers of Manchester and Nashua. Then we were later called CareNet. We are still a CareNet center, but we rebranded with CareNet's blessing and permission back in 2018 to Real Options. And so we have been active in Manchester and Nashua now for 40 years. We became fully medical back in 2008. What I mean by that is we do have, we are medical centers. We have an overseeing medical doctor, and we have registered nurses that work in the centers doing ultrasounds and administering pregnancy tests. So that's just a super quick history of where we came from. And as executive director, we have one board of directors for both centers, one balance sheet. I oversee the 2 centers. And then, of course, we have staff and many volunteers who help make it all come together. Yeah.
Wow. That's awesome. 40 years. That's a really long time.
Yes.
People in Nashua and Manchester. That's wonderful.
Is that 1985, if I did the math right?
Okay. Yes.
Cool.
That's
wonderful. So could you tell us a little bit more? I know you mentioned that you guys, do medical services, you have ultrasounds. Mm-hmm. So could you tell us a little bit more about what the day-to-day is, what services you provide at Real Options?
Sure, of course. So as I mentioned, we have pregnancy tests that we do. We have ultrasounds. And I should also say all of our services, everything we do is 100% free. There is no cost. we like to say, judgment-free, cost-free. So besides the medical part of what we do, we also have parenting classes for men and women. We have male advocates. Those are volunteers who are trained to work with men who are becoming dads and want some guidance around that. We have a streaming service called Bright Course that does the actual teaching of the classes, and then there's peer support from those who are client advocates and meet with our clients one-on-one. So we also have a boutique in each center. It's like a beautiful little store. And everything in there is free. We have baby clothes, strollers, car seats, pack and plays, diapers, all kinds of things like that. And we also have a program called Mending Hearts. I always like to mention that, because Mending Hearts is a program for women who have been affected by an abortion in their past. And so we have a beautiful program of healing. And I've talked to so many women that have come through the program, and they just say things like, I feel like I have the light back in my eyes. I feel lighter in my heart. It's a beautiful program, about God's forgiveness. And we're launching a new part of our Mending Hearts is a drop-in style class that meets the last Wednesday of every month in our Manchester location from 6 to 8. And so it's just an open drop-in style, kind of come in, check us out, and just talk to other women in the same, circumstance. And maybe theirs is a little different, but just it's really women helping women. So those are the main highlights of what we do. We also have a lot of referral services that we offer. So adoption referral, we're all trained in modern adoption. A lot of people don't really understand what a modern adoption is, and they may use language like, I could never give my baby away. I mean, that's old language. The modern adoption languages make a plan that's certainly more positive, and that's more truthful, because when a woman makes an adoption plan, she's in control of everything from what happens at the hospital, who she's choosing as parents, what the contact will be after. So we certainly affirm and talk adoption to our clients, and we have some great adoption agencies that we refer to. We have tons of community referrals. We have client service managers in each center that are really the experts in our community referrals. So that's just it in a nutshell, I think.
Wow.
Yeah, just a nutshell. That's so much. That's awesome.
I feel like I could keep going, but
yeah, it's just amazing, like how many free things that you guys offer, and just this wonderful support for families in New Hampshire. I really like that you touched on the fact that you guys have a drop-in style class that you're offering, because I that's one thing when some pregnancy centers, I've heard they have after abortion support, but it's like a 8-week class where you have to go to the first class and be there through the entire time. But I think having the option that people can actually come in whenever they want, or maybe in the middle of the class you meet somebody who would benefit from that support, and I think that that's really awesome. So
well, that's just it. And we do have a 10-week program as well, which is much more in depth, but we've launched this new style because we feel like there are some women, just like you described, who are like, I don't really want to sign up for a 10-week class. And so we still want to support them and be able to talk with them through. So we have a smaller little booklet that is more, you can kind of not be there every single week. It's, just a little more easy to drop in and out of. And of course, we'd like them to keep coming, but we've just started it last month. So we're really excited to try and offer this to the community.
Wow. Awesome. So Lindsay, if women or men, mothers, fathers want to come to Real Options and receive some of these services, how do they do that, or how can they sign up for that, or reach out to you guys about that?
Well, there are several ways, but we did launch last year. We launched a new 24/7 nurse chat on our website, which is super active. These nurses have the capacity to make appointments in real time in both our Manchester and Nashua centers. And so They can engage with us through the nurse chat. They can call us. We do still get walk-ins. That can be hard because often our nurses are fully booked, but sometimes it just works out that there's been a cancellation and somebody walks in. So really they can go on the website and engage that way, or they can call us. They can text us, email. Yeah.
All right.
And what is
ways.
your website? What is your website so that so people know how to
Real
reach you?
Options NH.
NH. Okay.
Yes.
Is that .com?
.org.
.org. Okay.
RealOptionsNH.org.
NH.org. Great.
Now all of a sudden I'm like, it is a .org, right? Someone look it up. No.
Put you on the spot there. Sorry.
I should know that. I say it all the time.
I get it though. No, totally. But what would you say is the most rewarding part of your job? And how long have you been executive director?
So my journey started quite many years ago, back in the 90s. I heard that there was a pregnancy center near me, a local pregnancy center that was looking for volunteers. And so I attended a training and I became a volunteer at a pregnancy center where, I lived in the town that I lived for off and on for about 6 years. And later, fast forward many years later, after I was married and had my children and whatnot, I was asked to be on the executive director for Real Options. So I was on the board of directors, I was on the board of directors for 8 years. And then we had an executive director who was retiring out, and some of the board members were like, you should apply. And I was like, no way, that's too big a job. But here I am. So I went from the board of directors to being executive director, and I've been doing that almost 5 years now. Next month, I was hired, 5 years ago in July. So, yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Well, happy 5 years.
Thank
you.
It's funny because I feel like that's honestly the story a lot of the times I find with people who like running pregnancy centers is I think it's God calls them to it. I know I live in Connecticut, and there's a pregnancy center near me, and I recently was talking to the executive director there, and she started about 5 years ago too, and she said, yeah, I wasn't planning on it. And then the executive director left and they asked me, and I was like, no way, I can't do that. And she applied and she's been there.
Yeah.
So
I was like, I don't know if I can do that, but we've had, we've been very blessed to have it's been great. It was a wonderful ministry when I came in, and, we've had some wonderful things happening over the last 5 years. So I'm not taking credit for it. I'm grateful that I've been a part of it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we have a story to share from Real Options, Molly's story.
Yeah.
If we could share that video that would be great.
When I found out I was pregnant, I was already a single parent working full-time. I had a good job that I had worked hard for and was also in school to better my future. My boyfriend had really strong opinions that abortion was our best option and the solution we desperately needed. Although I had an abortion scheduled for the next day, I was feeling unsettled about it, so I Googled abortion, and Real Options came up in my search. The thing that attracted me was the free services they offered. I wanted to be sure I had explored all my options before I had the abortion, so I texted Real Options, and they scheduled me to come in right away. When I arrived, the staff was friendly and seemed to care about me. I met with a nurse, and she gave me a pregnancy test, and then further confirmed my pregnancy through an ultrasound. I was so conflicted. I just did not know what to do. And then the nurse offered to pray with me. She was so calm, and it helped me to relax a bit. I still had not made up my mind, but I wanted more time to think about it. The nurse told me we could continue discussing my options, so I set another appointment to sit down with her 2 weeks later, and I canceled my appointment at the abortion clinic. At the next appointment, I told the nurse, I'm keeping my baby, and she provided another ultrasound. It was so exciting to see my baby moving around inside me. It was not an easy decision to keep my baby, and I struggled with it throughout my entire pregnancy. But now, when I look at my beautiful baby girl, I think about how she might not be here if I had not come to Real Options that day. I was so close to having an abortion. I am so happy I had her, and her father is too. He loves her so much and even thanked me for having her. We can't imagine life without her. I love her so much. I will forever be grateful for the support I received at Real Options. It really made me feel like I was not alone. Our daughter is here because of people like you who help provide the free services we receive. Deep inside, I know that it was the right decision to keep my baby, and I'm so happy that I made that decision.
That was beautiful.
It is.
I just want
And that's just one client story. And I wanted to just point out the website that you saw at the end of that is our, friends of the ministry donor website, but realoptionsnh.org. It is .org is our client facing website. And that's just one story. I know, Cindy, you asked me, what would be one impactful story? And there's just so many, that come to mind, even for me personally, just, women that have said, I've never had to buy one diaper, and that's made all the difference in the world, because they get diapers every single week, free diapers, and just couples that have, gotten married and just come together and learn to be parents, and, helping women, after an abortion, and just so many beautiful stories of clients so many come to mind. Yeah. So that's just one.
Do you remember that time about Molly's story? And
yes, very clearly.
Wow.
I do. Yeah.
Also, the ultrasounds. Can you share about like the ultrasound that Real Options has, and how that helps women and men?
Yeah. So when women are faced with an unplanned pregnancy, in the state of New Hampshire, they have 3 legal choices, of course. They can choose adoption, which I already mentioned, and we can help with that because we do adoption referral services. They can choose to parent, and I've already kind of mentioned some of the support that we can offer for people wanting to become parents. And then, of course, they can choose an abortion. And we will talk with a woman, who wants to consider abortion. We want to be able to share with her the risks, the procedures, and also the aftermath of what happens after abortion, so that she is well informed if that is her choice. It's against the law, of course, someone to have an abortion. It's against the law, of course, than not to. So we respect all women's autonomy, but we do believe that one of the most empowering things for women is for them to be able to see what's happening inside of their bodies. So it's very important that we offer these free ultrasounds. If a woman wants to know what's happening, and I can tell you, I've been in the ultrasound room. I'm not a nurse, I'm not medical, but we always have what's called an ultrasound chaperone in with our nurses as a second layer of protection, for everybody involved. And so I have chaperoned many, many ultrasounds in the past 5 years, and it's amazing to hear women say things like, I thought it was just pregnancy tissue. I didn't know it would look like a baby. I didn't know there was a heartbeat. Does it have a face? I didn't know it looked this. I didn't understand it was a baby already. We scan as early as 6 weeks. And so that is empowering for women to be able to know and understand that before they make that decision. And again, we respect their autonomy, regardless of their decision, we're there for them. We care about them, we love them. We do not refer or perform abortions at all, but we will meet with women, and some women already have an appointment at the abortion clinic. They may already have the abortion pill in hand, but they come in number one, because services are free. And I think number two is because they know that we will talk to them about anything they want to talk about. We're going to meet them where they're at and discuss whatever they want to talk about. We're not going to, make them sit and listen to information they don't want to hear. But if they really want to know more about an abortion, our nurses are skilled to discuss the risks and procedures of the abortion pill, procedural abortion. So they will do that. And so, I just think it's important for women to be able to go somewhere where they'll be listened to, they'll be cared for, and they'll be empowered with information before they make a decision like that. I mean, so many women are just astounded at, what they're seeing on the ultrasound screen. It just speaks for itself. And by the way, we have 3D, 4D ultrasound technology, which we have women say, this is better than my OBGYN.
Wow.
One of the nurse manager and I toured a medical facility near us, and they were like, oh my goodness, you have 3D, 4D technology. That was all provided for free from us, from donors and from churches. They donate things like that. Both centers have 3D, 4D technology. And, it's important. It makes it very clear. It also lets women know this isn't some, back alley situation here. Like, we have cutting edge technology that we can offer you for free in order to empower women in the community. So with information. So
I think that's so wonderful. And just like being able to provide, information and knowledge and exactly scientific evidence of their child, to a woman and if a partner's coming in as well.
Yes.
Is so important. And I know just from some outreach I've done just on campus, I go do outreach on campuses a lot. A lot of people don't actually know the risks of an abortion or, or what an abortion is. So the fact that you guys even can provide knowledge and information about that as well is so important too. Another question I had is, so I feel like sometimes a big complaint of like when people are like, oh, well, if you're encouraging somebody to choose life, do you support the baby after they're born? Like, so I know you touched on it a little bit. You said that you provide free diapers to mothers if they choose life for their baby. So how long after the baby's born will you help them with baby supplies and things like that?
Classes, yeah.
That's a great question. I'm so glad you asked it because it really does come up a lot and it's very important. And we do support and provide, services and supports to families because, women and men, like I said, it's typically up to about age 2 is what we can do our best. And then we have some people that want to stay on a little bit longer. And we don't just have parenting classes. I should mention our Bright Course classes. There's, anything from budgeting to life skills. There's all kinds of things that they can take. And we love to ask them like, hey, what do you want to take? Once we've done the basic parenting pack, for moms and dads, we like to, ask them, what are you interested in? You want to keep coming in. And so yes, we can support them up through age 2. We have clothing up through about age 2. Sometimes we have a little bit older, but for the most part, it's through age 2. Yeah.
That's awesome. No, that's wonderful. Yeah, it's really, and that's the thing. I think that's so important for people to know is yes, pregnancy centers like yours, you guys provide those resources even after the baby's born. That's awesome. So, yeah.
And I think sometimes people don't understand the impact. There are a lot of pregnancy centers just in our state alone. And, there was a report that came out in 2023. We all submitted our statistics for, all of the free services we provide, pregnancy testing, ultrasounds, the clothing, the diapers, the classes, and it accounted to just being over $1.3 million in the state of New Hampshire that the pregnancy centers of New Hampshire are providing for free for the community.
Wow.
So, and of course that's because of our donors and whatnot, but we have a huge impact. I know last year we had our busiest medical year yet. I mean, we have, the 2 locations, we served 982 individuals with 354 ultrasounds. We had 648 classes, 814 visits for material goods, over 1,300 visits total, and 345 pregnancy tests. It's a lot of numbers, I know, but I just wanted to say that to say, Real Options is really impactful in the Manchester and Nashua areas and beyond. You know, it's not just those two cities. We see people down into Massachusetts, and, you know, kind of there are other pregnancy centers, but I think sometimes people want to come to the big cities where nobody will, you know, they kind of want some anonymity. So, so yeah, we're definitely grateful that we're making a big difference for the communities, for families.
Yeah, you guys are
Seems like-
doing wonderful work.
People
Thank
are really, really needing all these services and resources, and they're really coming to receive. So
Yes, the number one way people reach us is through Google Ads. We do, you know, spend money on our Google Ads and our Google campaigns, and being on social media. 5 years ago, that was one of the first things I said. I said, we need to get on social media. That's where everybody is. And so we do a lot of social media advertising. And the number two way that people reach us is word of mouth. And so I think one of the most frustrating things for me is when I talk to someone, you know, in the community, and they explain that they wish they had heard about us. And I'm like, we've been around for 40 years. How is this possible? We have billboards. We just had friend of the ministry provide billboards through December. So, you know, we want people to know there's no reason why we should not be the first stop for every woman facing an unplanned pregnancy, because, you know, we're there to listen. We don't gain financially from any decision that a woman makes, which is very powerful for women to know that they, you know, we're not going to gain anything. You know, we don't gain from any decision that they make. We don't have a stake in that. You know, so they can come to us. So I think it's frustrating when sometimes I bump into people and they tell me their story and they say, I wish I had known about you. So tell people, you know, we want to always spread the word that we're here. We're here for women and for men. You know, we're not called a women's center. We want to be welcoming to men as well. We always ask on the phone when we're answering, you know, phone calls, or, you know, whether it's through text or chat, you know, we say, do you have a support partner? We welcome your support partner as well. And that's why, you know, we've got classes for the guys too. We want them to feel just as welcome. We're not a super girly, you know, when you walk in our waiting room, you know, it's got a lot of blue and it's very neutral, because we want men to feel very welcome. They should feel welcome.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of wrapped up in your logo, which is like a heart for the love,
Yeah.
and like a speech bubble for like speaking in love, and a
Right.
conversation, and
Right.
that's what I see from
Yes.
Real Options.
Yeah, we certainly, you know, care and you know, we believe it's a baby. We do personally. You know, it's for a woman to decide that for herself, but we also care about the moms and the dads. We truly do. And, you know, our exit surveys, we have 99% excellent. Every time someone comes in, they get an exit survey, and there's many questions that get asked, but one of them is, you know, to rate us, and another one is, you know, what did you like about the center? And I was just reading through last month's, and the comments from people of, I was cared for, I was listened to, I felt so safe, you guys really love me, you care about me. Whatever their decision, we care about them, and we feel that's success, regardless of their decision. If they walk out the door and they feel that we cared for them, well, we do. And so that's a huge success right there.
I love that you emphasize the fact that you get so many good reviews, like 99% of reviews, because in my day job, I'm a regional coordinator for Students for Life of America. So I do a lot of outreach on campuses and often talking about what pregnancy resource centers do. And sometimes I get from people like, oh, they're coercive, or, you know, they make women feel uncomfortable and this and that. And that's always what I say is, like, you know, pregnancy centers like yours, like Real Options, often people leave and they leave really good reviews, and they're
happy.
These pregnancy centers are getting like 4 and 5 star reviews, and you know, people go on about how, you know, how loved they felt, and like everything you just described. So,
but unfortunately, people can also put fake reviews up on other people's websites, and, you know, it's difficult. Sometimes you can't do anything about that. But so, you know, having said that, I just want to point that out, that these are our exit surveys in person, and, you know, you can't, you know, it's they tell you really shouldn't say, give us a good review. It's a medical service. You don't really want to feel like you're coercing them to give you a good review on like Google or whatever. So we don't pressure people to do that. We know where we stand. We know what people in the community really think about us. It's a positive experience. And I'm glad that you take that head on. Back when there was the overturning of Roe v. Wade, we were picketed in Manchester by a group of women. And that's okay. I said, listen, if we ever get picketed, make sure you go out and offer water, let them, have a tour if they want to know more about us, because they probably are misinformed, right? And so I wasn't there, but the center manager went out, and it was a group of I would describe them as younger women. And, she said, does anybody need water? Because it was summer. And they were kind of surprised, and they had papers in their hands that they were handing out. And she said, "Can I see the paper that you're looking at, that you're handing out?" And she handed it to them, and it was just full of stuff that's just not accurate. And so she was like, "Well, let me talk about some of these things." They were very respectful, and they listened. And then she said, "If you're hungry, if you need anything to eat, we have lots of snacks, and if you want to, come inside, you're welcome to." And so they ended up leaving. I think that they realized, what are we doing here? She was able to address the points on there and say, I don't know where you got this, but this is just not accurate information about what we're doing. And so, anybody can say anything, but we are confident in what we're doing, and we're confident in knowing that women and men are very happy, with our services.
Yeah.
Amazing. I have a question about if our listeners would like to support the work and mission of Real Options or volunteer, how can they help?
Probably the easiest thing to do is to go to that website that was on the screen after Molly's video. You have to put there's a different website called Friends of Life. That's not ours.
The Friends.
It's got to be the Friends. So the friendsoflife.org. And, you can learn more about volunteer opportunities and, becoming a donor or a friend of the ministry. We do have, fundraisers through the year. And so we are 100%, donor supported. So we appreciate it. And the donors love us. They love what we're doing in the community. And so they love to support the work.
That's wonderful.
Awesome.
Well, Lindsay, thank you so much. Is there anything else that you would like to share with the podcast, with our listeners?
I'm trying to think. You gave me some questions beforehand that they were really excellent. I think we've covered a lot of them, but I'm just trying to think if there's anything else in that list that we might not have covered. I think one thing I guess I just want to say is, if any women hear this and they're facing an unplanned pregnancy, please come to Real Options, because we really do care about you. Like I said, we don't profit from any decision that you make. We will meet you where you are at. We are, it's free, cost free, and we're also judgment free. And if any woman, listening has had an abortion and they're struggling, we'd love to help you with that as well. We have women experienced who can walk you through some hope and healing because of that experience. So I really appreciate this opportunity. We're so grateful. We're so grateful that you asked us to be here.
Yeah, thank you for being here. Thank you for coming on the show and sharing about all the great work that you guys are doing. Sounds wonderful. And I'm sure there's so many people out there that have personal stories, just like the video you shared, where they've been supported by you guys, and they're in a very different spot than they were, when they were nervous about their pregnancy. So
for sure. In fact, Cindy, you asked me that one time, what does it feel like to support these families? And, we have had moms bring in their daughters, and we were there for them, and, their daughters need our services, and they remembered us and trusted us. And, it'd be great if their daughters were in different circumstances, but, we're glad that we can be there generationally, and that moms who cared, 20 years ago and felt like they were cared for can still reach out to us and want to trust us enough with their own daughters to bring them in and walk with them through whatever they need. So,
wow. 40 years of
40 years. God has
Real
really
options.
blessed us for sure. Yes.
amazing.
Yeah.
Well, that concludes today's episode about Real Options with Lindsay Hyvenin. Thank you so much for coming in. At the end of every episode, Jessica and I, we each share a Bible verse that we picked out that, values life. So I don't know if you picked one, Lindsay. If not, that's
Yeah.
okay. But, okay.
I was concerned that maybe you've, shared this one before.
No. Actually,
I think I shared one
Yeah.
once that Cindy had shared like 2 weeks before, and so
Well,
we're
it's
like,
very
yeah,
possible. It's very possible. So a few years back, I memorized the chapter of Psalm 139, which is 24 verses. That's a lot for me to memorize. Maybe not for you, but that was a long passage for me. And don't worry, I'm not going to try to remember it for 3 helps or anything like that. But have you guys done Psalm 139?
that's the exact one. Yeah. No, but we love
Yeah.
it. Yeah, let's hear it.
Well, it was this section in the middle, and I was actually I tend to use a version that's a little trickier for people, so I'm going to read it from here. It says, "For you created my inmost being, you knit," and of course this is the psalmist talking to God. "For you created my inmost being, you knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful, I know that full well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was made in the secret place, when I was woven together in the depths of the earth. Your eyes saw my unformed body. All the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to be. How precious to me are your thoughts, God." And I love that. When I have to tell you, when I memorized the 24 verses, I've known many of the verses over the years, but when I memorized those 24 verses, it became so personal to me about how much God loves each and every single one of us, and how, life in the womb is so precious to God. And so, those are certainly my personal beliefs. And, I love that section of scripture, and that's something too. If women are open to it, we are more than happy. You saw from the video, to pray with them if they want spiritual support. If they don't, that's okay. We don't do that. But it's always a privilege and an honor to be able to tell them, God loves you. He created you. And sometimes when a woman just realizes that, she has a whole different perspective on her baby as well, right? Because suddenly she realizes, there is value to my own life. A lot of people walk around, don't feel much value in their own lives. So it's hard for them to think of, an unborn baby as having value. So I walk closely with that verse and what we do. Yeah.
Love that.
Well, I love that.
By the end of your podcast this year, all of your listeners will have memorized these verses.
Yes. It's our core verse. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's so good because also in Psalm 139, it's that every day of your life is written in God's book, so that he knows us so intimately. He has a plan for us. He sees us. So
right. Exactly.
Jessica, did you pick a verse this week?
I did, yes. So I did. So I don't have mine memorized, unfortunately, but that's all right. I chose Matthew 28:19 through 20. And this is when Jesus commissions his disciples to go out and share the gospel. And he says, "Go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything that I have commanded you. And remember, I am with you always to the end of the age." And I really just loved that last part there, that I am with you always to the end of the age. It's really just saying, just really showing that God is always with us. And I thought that would fit really well with what we're talking about today, right? It's even if you're in a stressful situation, or you're facing an unplanned pregnancy, or whatever the difficulty might be in life, in good times and bad, God is always with you and will lead you through that. And actually, I picked this one because I actually just bought a notepad that has this verse on it, because I need to hear that every day.
Yeah.
Is that God is with me always, and just like he's with a family facing an unplanned pregnancy. So
for sure.
Awesome. Okay, I'll try to squeeze mine in before we end the episode. Mine is from Jonah 2, verses 5-8. Jonah is talking about he's praising God for rescuing him for salvation. You know, when he was inside the belly of the great fish for 3 days. So he says, "The waters closed in over me to take my life. The deep surrounded me. Weeds were wrapped about my head at the roots of the mountains. I went down to the land whose bars closed upon me forever. Yet you brought up my life from the pit, O Lord my God. When my life was fainting away, I remembered the Lord, and my prayer came to you into your holy temple. Those who pay regard to vain idols forsake their hope of steadfast love." So I chose this because when our life is in the pit, when our life is fainting away, like God remembers us, we remember God, and he brings us out of that pit. You know, he rescues us from that deep water. And so that's why I chose that.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's all the time we have for today. God bless you, Lindsay, and everybody at Real Options, and everybody who walks through and is helped. And we're thankful.
Thank you. And thank you for having me on your brand new podcast. Thank you so much.
Please share it.
Okay. Bye,
Awesome.
everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
See you next
Bye.
week.
Thank you for listening to the Ever Living podcast. If you have scripture, questions, or things you'd like to share, please feel free to email us at everlivingpod@gmail.com. Also, make sure to follow us on Instagram at ever.livingpodcast. And if you like this podcast, please make sure to subscribe and share with a friend, and give us a 5-star review. See you next week. May God bless you and be very near to you, and may you be ever living.